Welcome to Florida Gators Live, episode number 34. We are 69 days away from Florida Gator football. And man, I remember we started this at 117, right? Was that it? Or
Something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it's something like that.
so it's been nearly 60 days since we started counting this down. I mean, that feels wild. At time is just it feels like so long till the season, but it's also like from that point we started counting down to now, we're basically a week or two away from the football season happening, and that's not including week 0. And you also got some other fun stuff starting then. You got preseason. I mean, if you watch any of preseason football, but Tyler, how has your week been?
It's been pretty good. I can't complain. Had some fun this weekend. Unfortunately, I had to watch LSU win the baseball national championship, which was kind of a
Mhm.
bummer. But other than
Yeah.
that, it's been pretty good.
I mean, with how that coastal coach is, though, it was like
Yeah, that was
it felt
a
like two
lose
evils.
lose. Yeah, that was a lose lose situation. Do you see he got tossed today in the first inning?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
saw someone tweeted it was really funny. Something along the lines of those umps are the salt of the earth, and that when he was disrespecting them, like quoting his rant.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty funny. Whoever said that
Yeah,
was a
that
good
is
tweet.
yeah. I on a Friday I actually went to a Japanese steakhouse hibachi place
Nice.
for my friend's birthday, and it's in like a little plaza, and it was storming bad on Friday night, and so it's pouring rainfall. We're in there. They have us on a table next to one of the doors that they don't use. They've been blocked off and everything. And I guess the door is like lowered from the pavement, from the walkway. So the water's just falling under through the door right next to us. And they had to get a bunch of people to put some towels under the door to make sure it didn't leak through too much. But that was pretty funny because you get the one table that's right next to the one door that water could spill through.
That's some good luck right there.
Right. But let's start talking about some Gator football here. Here we go. Gators got some interesting news here yesterday. 4-star athlete wide receiver Tremont Collins from Cottondale, Florida, commits to the Gators, a 2027 recruit. You know, we still have, what is that, 18 months until these kids in 2027 can even sign.
Mm-hmm.
I was debating whether we should even do a segment on it or if we shouldn't. But I mean, I've talked to some people, I've watched some of his film. I know Keith Nurber on 3. He talks about Collins and loves him. He thinks he's a potential like top 100 player in the 2027 class. So I was like, you know what? We'll do it. I mean, he's one of those. If he's one of those top 100 players, it's someone that we hit on now, and then maybe we can look back in 8 months from now when in the 2026 class is done and be like, hey, we were on this kid earlier, and now we're talking about him as one of the best players in our class.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy to me. Like you said, top 100 potential. He's already a top 200 guy on the 247 composite. So, a guy that's pretty highly regarded coming out of his sophomore season in high school. I mean, he's interesting to me because they have him do just about everything. He's a
Yep.
receiver. They have him take it kind of, it's like a direct snap wildcat quarterback. They have him, kind of on handoff jet sweep type things. He plays DB. He returns kicks.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think from watching his film, a pretty interesting athlete, especially for his size. For a guy who's 6'2",
Yep.
180, he can move. I mean, not like electric speed, I would say, but good quickness, some nice agility. Like he's got some pretty nice cuts and footwork and all that. And as a guy who plays basketball, runs track, so a really good athlete. I mean, an intriguing guy, like just for how dominant he looks on film as a sophomore. Like, I'm curious where he goes from here.
Yeah, his current rankings. So on 247, he's what is he? 172 or
179, I want to
79?
say 179.
That
Yeah.
sounds right. So the composite, or yeah, composite 179. So on 3 has him ranked as the 105th ranked player. ESPN's the 195th. 247 has him as 3-star rivals unranked. So it's way too early to worry about a kid's rankings now. But I mean, you're seeing on 3. I'm pretty sure they updated most recently. I mean, again, it's too early to worry about it, but it's definitely someone who could work up to that spot. And you look at the kids the staff has taken like really early. Will Griffin, who's now been committed for over a year, he's still in that 200-ish rank, 220s, early two teens. I'm not sure. Last class, they took Waltez Clark, who still finishes a 4-star. So it's very rare we see the staff even go after a kid in the next cycle unless they are like really high on them. So
Mhm.
I'm happy about it if the staff is willing to take it, because even the 2026 class, we saw it until
Yeah.
official visit started. They had only taken Will Griffin. They didn't take a single other player. So if you're taking you now, they must think you have the potential to be a really good player.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely been a recurring theme under Billy. I don't even necessarily want to say slow starts, because we're saying slow starts like relative to the way the recruiting industry's been for like the time that we've been
Yep.
following it. I don't know if that's fair to say anymore, just because everything about how recruiting works has changed. So I think the
It's one
timelines have
visit and it
changed.
could be done.
Exactly. And there's less motivation in getting a kid locked up early. Cause I mean, obviously decommitments have always happened, but like decommitments would be a change of heart in the past, and you kind of would just be like, yeah, we'll take our chances. But like now it's like, what's the point of having a guy committed for a year and a half if, like you said, he'll take a single OV somewhere else, get a better offer, and dip? And I'm not criticizing the guys who do that. It just is the reality of the situation. So yeah, I mean, I think they clearly see him as a riser. I mean, like, and again, it's just from watching his film, it's easy to see why the staff
Yep.
likes him. It's I think maybe not completely polished. I mean, I think a lot of the stuff that he showed, especially at receiver, was kind of just go balls, because he's just was quicker
Yep.
than people and could get behind him. I mean, I thought he was kind of dealing on the film that I saw, was kind of dealing with some inaccurate passes and did a nice job with his footwork adjusting to him. That was like a plus I saw. But I think pretty clearly a raw guy who, I mean, obviously he's a rising junior in high school. Like, he's not a finished product as a player anywhere near. But I mean, you can just see the raw talent with how he's able to win his one-on-ones. Like, that's kind of the sign of just these guys that are freak athletes in high school, even when they're not polished and they're still raw, like, they're just going to win because they are just more talented. And that's kind of the vibe you get from watching him.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about these 2027. I mean, I just saw Auburn flip a kid from FSU for the class of 2027. It. I mean, kids, we've always been indecisive, so it's hard to make fun of them or anything like that. But it's like there's just so much time until he could
Mhm.
even sign. It's so hard to actually care about it, and it's like the two players they have taken really early ended up. I mean, I'd be shocked if Will Griffin not signing with Florida would be the biggest surprise in
Yeah.
maybe Florida football history, Florida football recruiting history. Um, so it's like they have a history of getting one or two kids that end up lasting for the year and a half before they can sign, but like he's from Cottondale, which is in North Florida, closer to Tallahassee. I
Mhm.
mean, we'll see how FSU does, but it's like it's so hard to see someone actually just stick through it for this long period of a time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I will say I think there is something to what you said. Like, I think the staff has been kind of selective in who they give committable offers to this early. I
Hmm.
think Billy wants to avoid that. The guys that are committed for a year and a half and then flip a week before signing day, like that kind of thing. So I mean, obviously, I think the fact that they allowed him to commit, I don't want to say that like Florida is not taking commit, like that kind of sounds like I'm coping when I'm acting like, oh, Florida's just didn't have that many commits because they weren't they weren't ready to take them. But I think there's something to that. I think when you're like still
Yep.
pretty far away, I think there's something to being selective, because again, you're not just dealing with like, sure, we'll take you on, use a scholarship on you. Like, you have NIL resources. You've got to decide how to use and balance. So, they're not going to agree to take a kid the class unless they feel A, really good about his ability, and B, really good about like his signability.
Yeah, I'm about to point something out that probably a name no one's probably ever heard of. So Sevion Ellis, he was a former Gator commit. He has no ranking or anything out of high school right now, but he committed to Florida like very, very early for the class of 2022 under Dan Mullen. And he was a 4-star when he originally committed. And then like he kept falling like the 3-star, then like ranked in the 300s. And then, I mean, according to 247, he didn't even go to play football anywhere. So I don't even know what happened to him. But it's like, you see, a kid can be ranked a 4-star very, very early and then end up, I mean, like maybe not even going to attend any school. I mean, unless this is him. I mean, I don't know why he has two different links for 247, but like, you got to be a good judge to see what's going to end up happening with a player like this. Like, I saw an image on Instagram of him ranked 235th at one point played out of Miami. So it's like,
yeah,
I know why the staff takes its time, and we'll see if taking this one early ends up working out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously we'll just have to wait and see, but I think I think getting a couple guys in now early for 2027, because I mean, we're wrapping up. I mean, obviously there's going to be guys they host for official visits in the fall. You'll see a handful, but like Florida's kind of, not done recruiting in 2026, but they've kind of made their pitches. Like they're kind of in the wait and see now mode. And obviously you got to keep cultivating the relationships with these guys, but I think now is kind of the time you can start sort of looking at who you want to take in 2027.
Yeah.
I mean, that's high praise, George. I'm not sure I see like that level of just game changing athleticism in him, but I mean, he's a sophomore in high school, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I was recently listening to Chris Doering on some podcast, and he was saying that Percy Harvin is the greatest player in Florida football history. So, hey, if he's the next Percy Harvin, I would not be mad one bit. All right, I gotta tell you guys about time. It's time to follow Florida Voice of College Football on Twitter. It's brand new. We haven't even posted on it yet. I believe the only thing we've quote tweeted was this live stream. So if you haven't seen it, which you probably haven't, make sure you go follow us on Twitter. We're going to be keeping updates when we get commits, when we post videos, when we go live. It's going to be all there. It's going to be some great stuff, some personal opinions and stuff like that. Also follow the regular Voice of College Football channel on Twitter. It's just VOCFB or Voice of College Football. They do great stuff. Bunch of new promoting our streams and the new channels. So they do great stuff there. Go follow. Oh, don't know why I did that. Okay, George.
Yeah, we can't put that on the screen, but point taken.
You keeping up with the NBA Finals Game 7 tonight?
A little bit. Yeah, I'll watch it. I'm not like the biggest NBA guy, but I've kind of been watching the playoffs. Seems like it's been a pretty fun playoff. And this series has been good. So I'll check out Game 7 tonight. At least I'll watch the first half and see if it's worth watching the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I got a Game 1 when Halliburton hit 0.3 seconds left, basically a buzzer beater to end up winning for a game they led for 0.3 total seconds of. I mean, I was like, okay, I'm going to stick to watch this. And of course, we're now in Game 7. I'm excited to watch that after we finish up this stream here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do we want to preview the LSU game or talk about our DBs?
I don't know. Maybe start with game preview and end on DBs. I don't know. What do you think?
I was thinking DBs.
Okay. I don't care. That's fine with me. Let's get into it. We can get into some DBs. Let's do it.
Well, it's the final video in this series of us talking about the Florida Gators roster, done QBs, done art running backs, tight ends, offensive line, receivers, the defensive line, the linebackers room. So now we're heading into the DBs. We're going to be doing the corners, safeties, and the star position. So it's going to be a lot of players' name here because you're basically getting 3 positions in one. So hang out with us. It's going to be a pretty long video here. Let's start out with the star position because it kind of, when they're announcing like the expected starters for the games at the stadiums, they announce it under the linebackers, which is very interesting. But like it's a corner role in my opinion.
Yeah.
So the 2 names that will be starting, they're probably gonna be 50-50 playing time: Sharif Denson and Aaron Gates. Sharif Denson's played a good amount over his last 2 years here, started most of the games last year, if I'm not mistaken, has been a really solid to good star for us. He's a veteran in this room now. He was a 4-star recruit out of high school. I think what you're getting from him is good experience now, hopefully some seniority, maybe some leadership ability from him, and physicality while also having good speed.
Yeah, he's interesting. Like, I think I don't know if he's I feel like he kind of is similar to a lot of the guys in the DB room where you feel pretty good about it. I don't know if it's like he's proven to be like a high level SEC player. Maybe you could take that leap this
I,
year, but like I don't think you worry about the position. Like that's not going to be he's not going to be the weak link in the secondary, I don't think.
no, I look at him as like a high floor player. I don't think, I mean, he could have like that high ceiling, but like
Yeah,
I think he's a high floor, but I think he has the lower ceiling of the two names we're mentioning here to
I
start.
agree. I'd very much
But
agree.
and it's not trying to be negative towards Denson because I thought he's played some really good football. He's had some
Mhm.
really good moments. I just think when we look at the next guy here, I mean, one of the best abilities is availability, and Sharif Denson.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's missed a game since any time they tried to put him out there. But then we look next year, Aaron Gates. So I think he's going to be fine from his injury he suffered in the Ole Miss game, I believe it was. But I mean, you remember Tennessee, I think it was when you really had that breakout, like when he started
Mhm.
breaking out for everybody against, I think it was Tennessee. Then that Georgia game, he's all over the field getting a pick. Against LSU, he's all over the field making tackles and everything. If Aaron Gates is 100%, I think he should start. And I think he's a really, really good player who has the potential to be one of those best slot corners in the entire country.
Yeah, I agree. I think a healthy Gates is probably I definitely agree gives you the highest ceiling, and I also probably agree like should probably be starting. I mean, I think like if you remember, like when we've talked about earlier this offseason, because we've kind of previewed the defensive back room a few different times, like in its different iterations as they built upon it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we when we were talking about the star, like we almost I don't want to say wrote Aaron Gates off, but I think we were both very concerned about his availability and timetable for return from that
Mm-hmm.
injury. We were worried that could cost him decent amount of this upcoming season. But I mean, it seemed like he was back to being not necessarily 100%, but on a better track than we thought he would be in spring ball. So yeah, I mean, I think the entire thing here with him is health, but I think with the way he flashed last year, like assuming he hasn't lost a step like during the recovery process, I do feel like he gives you the best bet of like elevating this defense. But I think either way, you feel all right about this position. Like I think either it's a potential high end position if Gates is back and playing at the level he was at the end of last season, or it's at the very least a position you feel pretty solid about with Sharif Denson on the field.
Yeah, I forgot to mention their heights and weights and stuff, but Denson's 5'11, 191. Gates is just about 6 foot, 189. Uh, and Gates a bit smaller. I mean, he's taller, but
Mhm.
weighs a little bit less. He still has a great tackler. He's making all sorts of tackles for loss.
Yeah.
I was watching the Georgia game again, and I mean, he was just all over Georgia in that game until like everyone was hurt. It felt like in the secondary, and yeah, I think it's going to be real fun to see how those two battle for that starting job. Denson, a true junior, and Gates, a redshirt sophomore. So we got him for, well, hopefully we can still have each of them for another year here. I mean, Gates could technically be
Mhm.
here for another two. But like, I could see it, Gates, if he has like that breakout season, end up being like an NFL type of player. And then, I mean, you're looking at a senior season from Denson in 2026, which would probably be a really solid lookout for you right now. The next two names are three names, I guess I'm going to mention. Alfonso Allen, who was a transfer from Baylor. He's, I believe, a walk on, but he's
Mhm.
5'11, 195 out of Miami, who, for a walk on and like someone that you don't expect to play, I've talked to people. I mean, we saw him play in the bowl game a good bit. He had a pick, is a pretty
Mhm.
solid guy to have. I mean, I don't expect us to see much of him outside of maybe garbage time or, like the bowl game situation, what happened there. But I mean, it's solid to have there. And then Javari Flowers, the true freshman. Oh, I closed his stuff out real quick. I don't expect us to see too much of Javari Flowers this season. I mean, he reclassified from the class of 2026, so he's going to be a year younger than everybody else. He is 5'10 and a half, 165, according to 247. So he could have like another 5 or 10 pounds on him when he officially gets weighed out on campus and everything when the fall roster comes out. But I don't expect us to see too much of him. But like a former top 100 recruit is going to be someone to keep an eye on in a couple years to come.
So on Flowers, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not saying that like an extra, missing a year of high school is not still like less development than you would typically get, but is Flowers not older? I thought he was older for being reclassified. I thought he was like the same age as the guy as the normal incoming freshman. I might be wrong about that. I was under that impression.
You might be right. I'm not 100% sure. It would make sense, but I mean,
Yeah.
only 3 years of high school compared to 4
Yeah.
could mean
Yeah.
it could mean a good bit.
100%. I totally agree. I think not having the senior year of development is more significant than being 17 or whatever if he's younger than everyone else. But yeah, I agree with that point. I don't think you'll see him a ton. I mean, Alfonso Allen, I don't think you'll see him a ton either. I mean, obviously had the nice moment in the bowl game. I don't think you really expect to need him. I mean, I guess what I'll say is that not many teams can go 3 deep at the nickel. So that's a good thing, I guess. Flowers is
Yeah,
18.
Mark.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And a name I'm going to mention for like every position here, Michael Caraway Jr., the Southern Miss transfer. We know they brought him in to have a bunch of flexibility to play really all around the defense. So if like let's say Gates isn't ready, then Denson's going to need some help there at nickel star. Mark saying he's not a nickel though. I mean, I feel like he's too. I mean, unless he has really good length, which I'm not sure. I feel like he's too small to be a corner, and I know he's not a safety, so I'm not sure what else he would be. Like I
You
know
would
they
think,
also like him as a returner, but like I doubt they just brought him in to be a return man.
I mean, yeah, you'd think at least if he's going to get on the field early that it would be in the slot. Yeah, I mean, it listed it 5'10" and a half, 165 on 247. So I mean, yeah, you like maybe he can add to that frame a little bit and play on the outside, but you would think if he's gonna play this year, you would think it would be at the nickel, right?
Yeah, Rivals has him listed at 5'11", although that could just be them rounding up. Yeah, we're talking about Flowers too right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like we don't really know exactly. He's not even on the roster yet. We haven't seen him practice at all. So it's like maybe we're wrong here, but like I don't know his length. Maybe he has some really long arms that allows him to play some boundary corner. But like with that size, I'd more expect to be a slot in the future.
Yeah, with these DBs that aren't on campus yet, it's kind of just guesswork, especially when they're sort of tweeners, like not necessarily exactly clear where they're going to play. So,
yeah. So I think this next part right here, we're going to talk about the corners, might be the most fun and interesting because I've seen people talk about this room in all sorts of different ways. I've seen people talk about it as the biggest weakness on this team. I've also seen people talk about it as maybe one of the potentially best corner rooms in the country in the SEC. And it really depends on how you look at it. I mean, so you look at Devin Moore, who when you look at like his PFF grading, when you see how people talk about him, is maybe one of the best corners in the country. But the one thing you don't look at is if you do is his injury history. It's like it's not a matter of if, it's more of a matter of when. It feels like you're hoping he's due to have a healthy season here, but like looking at his first 3 seasons, he's missed at least like 6 or more games. It feels like in every season. So, you hope he stays healthy and you get a full year out of him because if you do, you're getting a potential all SEC level corner here in Devin Moore, which you're going to need after losing Jason Marshall and Trequez Bridges. But, you don't know about the injury. We have him listed at nearly 6'3", 6'2 3/4, 199. So he has the size, and we've really liked him. I remember coming out of high school, did we flip him from Notre Dame or were we battling Notre Dame? I can't remember. But like I remember he was like ranked in the 200s, but like it was a real battle with Notre Dame. Both schools really liked him. And we saw it as a freshman. If you remember, Devin Moore was on the field on the last drive of that first Utah game in Billy Napier's tenure. So they've really liked him for a long, long time. And just get healthy and we can have a really good season with him.
Yeah, looking at the corner room, I'd say I definitely fall into a middle ground category between biggest weakness on the team and potential to be one of the best cornerback rooms in America. Like starting with Moore, yeah. I mean, I think we all kind of know the deal with Devin Moore. He's looked really good when he's on the field. It's just like you said, staying on the field. That's been the problem for him. I mean, I think like I don't think it's unreasonable to say he's an All SEC candidate if he plays 14 games, however many games Florida's playing. I
This
think
is
he
what I was
could
talking
be
about.
ranked secondary number 10. I mean, that's pretty wild to me. I guess I'd have to like go through and look at who they had above and below, but I mean, I think there's just a lot of questions with it. It's not that I think it's a bad group by any means. There's just a lot of questions. And I think the biggest one of them is can Devin Moore stay healthy? Because I think so much of whether the secondary is, something you can feel all right about or something that's maybe a major area of concern could be as simple as, is Devin Moore on the field or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. If he can stay healthy, I mean, it should be a pretty fun time with him out there. Next, I think it's more of a two-man race here for this starting corner position. I think I'm personally in the opinion that it will be Dijon Johnson. I mean, everyone's going to be joining the Cormani McLean hype train. I mean, if you saw the recent video the Florida Gators posted, and there was the image of Cormani just like looking jacked, like he's put on the weight, like he might be there at his weight now that you want him to be at, because his spring roster he's listed at 6'1.5", 182. So it's like you probably want to get to 195 for the season, but like maybe he's there now, maybe he's just that close. But like I think it's Dijon. Listed at 6'1", 196 out of Tampa. There is the arrest and what happened there, but I don't think really anything is coming of it. Question: are we looking who's starting week 1, or are we looking who's starting week 3? Are we looking who's starting against LIU or who's starting against LSU?
What are you implying, that they could throw in some kind of 1-game suspension here? Is that what you're thinking?
That's definitely part of it right there.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think we're going what the secondary looks like at full strength when it's at its best. I think is what we're talking about here. I mean, I think I agree with you. I think I expect Dijon to win this job. I think he's been the more consistent player when he's gotten those opportunities. I mean, Cormani, look, I'll give him that. Like what you said, we always have kind of said with Cormani, like, man, if he can just, put on a little bit of bulk, he could be a real guy, and he has. I mean, Cormani I haven't seen the consistency. Like everyone, it's literally what Mark said here. Like he's been very up and down.
Mostly
And
down, honestly.
I think, yeah, honestly, really mostly down. The up is like the pick six. Like that's kind of the thing that everyone's so hyped about. And we forget there were games when Cormani was in where he was getting kind of cooked. And I'm not saying, I'm sure he's
Georgia.
I'm sure he's taken some strides this offseason. I'm not saying he hasn't, but like, I think he would have to have improved a lot. And to be honest with you, not only like, unless he's improved a lot, do I expect Dijon to start. I'm not sure how good I feel about him coming off the bench. And that's kind of where my concern with the secondary really starts, is I don't know if I love this cornerback room beyond those top 2 guys, which we'll kind of elaborate on here, I'm sure, in a minute.
Yeah, Ryan, I hope the defense continues off of last year. It's been so long since defense has been good. Drives me nuts. But yeah, I mean, even in the spring game, I mean, Cormani was getting cooked by Dallas Wilson in the spring game a good bit. I mean, I want him to succeed. Former 5-star. It seems like he's changed his mentality from how it seemed when he went to Colorado and now here. I mean, I've heard some stuff of him in high school that could have shown this foreseeable future, but like, I hope he's fixed things up and he's ready to go. The next name I'm gonna mention here, Jamrock Grimesley. So Jameer Grimesley, Jamrock Grimesley. This is a real interesting one because I know the staff loved him coming out of high school. Played sparingly last year, played decently well, but he had another ACL injury. Because he tore his ACL in high school, his senior year, which caused him to drop down the rankings a little bit to like the 200s or so. And, he got a healthy season from his freshman year where he played, some minutes, very injury prone secondary. So he had to play a good amount of minutes there. But, and then he tears his other ACL I can't remember if it was the off season or end of the year. I can't remember, but it's like, if he's healthy, it's like both of your ACLs tore. I mean, I like him. I like when he's played, but it's like, man, those injuries make it very, very interesting going into this year.
Yeah, I'd be a little surprised if he ends up seeing any major role this year, unless there's just really significant injuries. I think, um, obviously, whoever doesn't win that other cornerback battle between Cormani and Dijon, and I assume the other guy we're going to talk about in a minute here, Michael Caraway, I would say you're probably looking at as the guys that would step up in a depth situation.
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't even going to talk about Caraway next. I was
Oh,
going to talk
okay.
about the freshman.
Wow. Oh, okay.
I'm
That's
going to talk
fair.
about Ben Hanks.
Hmm.
6'1", 180. Like he needs to put a little bit of weight on. He had an offseason with Tyler Miles. Not as far off as like Cormani was, but like, a little bit off there, but needs to get there. I think he's going to be there. And I watched him during the spring game. He had some good battles with Dallas Wilson and some other receivers. I mean, there's a reason that on 3, I think it was, had him as a 5-star. He was a top 50 player in the class, the all-time leader in picks in a season in Miami high school football history, which produces a lot of very good defensive backs. So that's really impressive to get there. I mean, we've seen it many, many times with Florida corners that they can produce their freshman year. Maybe not week 1, but like once you get halfway through the season where you're starting to feel some injuries, and you can get him in a bit, and he just keeps playing, keeps improving throughout the season. And by the end of the year, you're going into the next season with him as a freshman All SEC player and one of those guys that you're looking to take another step heading into their sophomore season.
Yeah, I think that actually makes sense to go to Ben Hanks next, because I think he has could, depending on how things break, could be like an X factor player in the
Yeah.
secondary this year, just because like I don't necessarily expect him to play that much if things go well. Like if things go according to plan, you'd think you see much more of Devin Moore and Dijon and Cormani. Like you would think that's more what you're seeing here, but
Mm-hmm.
like we've just seen injuries at this position at this position, and if you find yourself in an injury situation, like kind of talking about, like we'll see, where Cormani's at, Ben Hanks being a guy that can play and play at like an above average level in a promising way, that I mean that could end up, if you catch some bad luck from injuries, that could be the difference between it being a successful defense and it not, if Ben Hanks ends up
Yeah.
being a guy that you can put out there.
Yeah, so next we'll go to the guy you mentioned a little bit ago, Michael
Mm-hmm.
Caraway Jr., the Southern Miss transfer. We mentioned him. We talked about him for the star position. We know he has positional flexibility. We like getting players with that. I honestly just don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I didn't know about Trapez Bridges,
Mm-hmm.
last year going into the season, and he ended up
Yeah.
getting himself drafted with how well he was able to play down the stretch of the year there. And maybe Caraway, you can get some flexibility there, and he could end up producing really well for you. But it's really hard to say right now what we will get from Caraway. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll say he gives you some depth. I mean, hopefully you don't need too much of him.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't know if he can really give you that much good play.
No, that's literally what I was about to say. He gives you depth, but I don't think there's any guarantees it's good depth.
No.
Triquez Bridges was coming in from Oregon, and I mean, hadn't done a ton in his career, but I think it was easier to see him taking that jump. Like Michael Caraway was on a horrifically bad team the last couple years, didn't really, even in the Sun Belt, didn't really make a major impact. Like wasn't like an all Sun Belt level guy. He was kind of just like
No.
a run of the mill starter. I mean, I think if you got Michael Caraway playing like majority snaps on defense in a game, I think you're in big trouble. Can he come in and give you some snaps here and there? You would hope, because he's a veteran transfer and the staff took him. But yeah, I think it kind of felt like at the time, and it still does now, that he was just a body that Florida needed, because otherwise you're relying on like 2 true freshmen, one of which wasn't even there in the spring, who we'll get to in a second.
Yeah, before we get to that, we also have Teddy Foster. Haven't
Mm-hmm.
heard too much about him. He was like in the 700s. He's going into his redshirt freshman season now, 6'1", 182 about. I know he was a take from Corey Raymond. He was a big Corey Raymond guy, so I was honestly surprised we kept him in that class, but we did.
Mhm.
And I mean, maybe he does end up being a bit better than we could have thought, but like, I don't see him doing too much. We didn't really see him at all last year either. So, and 182 still, so he would probably need to put on a couple more pounds there before he's even ready. So, we'll see. But we'll get into Onus Conan, who I got to pull up as well. I don't believe he's on campus yet. I believe he was having to figure out some visa things. I've heard it's like, oh, it's good that you don't have to worry about him not making to campus. But 3-star, 359 in the composite, listed at 6'1", 180. Real track speed is like the big thing I've heard about him. I'm pretty sure he was a track champion in high school and everything, or ran track at a high level in high school. So you're getting someone that can give you really good speed in that secondary. A bit small, so I don't expect you to get too much out of him his freshman year. But when you have really good speed like Onus Conan, you take a year to develop him or two and see what you get with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd have to be pretty advanced, especially coming in the fall, assuming we're correct about that. You know, I just look at it. It's like you would just think that even in like a disastrous injury situation, that like Ben Hanks would see the field first. Grimsley would see the field first if he's assuming he's able to go. And yeah, you just it's hard to imagine he makes an incident or a major impact this season. But I mean, again, we've seen some pretty catastrophic injuries in the secondary. So, who knows who you'll need, but I think we're getting to the point where if you're talking about these guys having to play, I think Florida's had some pretty major problems.
Yep. Let's just go back. What would you grade the star position? I think we're looking at a healthy Gates and us. Denson, Flowers, maybe Caraway, and Alfonso Allen. What would you grade it?
I'd probably go like B plus because I think both your top two guys are trustworthy. I think one of them in Gates has the potential to be even more than that. I mean, maybe I don't want to say Denson doesn't either. I just think we've seen more flashes of it from Gates. But I wouldn't put it any higher than that because not a lot of depth and just injury concerns about Gates and his health. So I think that limits it a little bit. I mean, maybe you bump that to A- if you can give me like a guarantee that Aaron Gates is good to go, but I'm not sure we're there yet. So
yeah, I think Gates will be fine. I'm gonna go A- because I think you have a pretty good floor there with Denson, and I mean you're gonna get Gates a good. Even if Gates is injured a little bit at the start of the season, he's gonna play most of it. I would be shocked if he didn't. And then you got some freshmen there in Flowers and Allen and Caraway can split time there if you need. So I think you have the pretty good floor while also having a really high upside there. So I think it's worth an A- to me. What would you give the corner room?
Corners, I'm probably sitting at a flat B. I think I feel pretty good about the top two guys. I shouldn't even say pretty. I feel like I feel very good about Devin Moore when he's on the field. I feel pretty confident that one of Dijon or Cormani will be good, emerge as good enough on the opposite side. I just really don't love the depth here. I think any injuries get me very concerned. Any injuries, and you're possibly turning to Ben Hanks and asking him to lock down SEC receivers as a true freshman, which even if he's good, is just not an ideal situation to be in. Like, I don't think, especially given that I can't look at it in a vacuum and have to take Devin Moore's injury history in account. Like, I don't really know how you could go much higher than B. I think that's kind of like the highest I can give.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a bit surprised you gave it a B. I thought you were gonna go like a B- there because I was also thinking B in my head. So like, I think you have the upside. Like Devin Moore, you've seen good production from. Dijon played pretty well last year. I think he's like ranked at 109 out of high school, so close to a top 100 recruit there. So I really like it, and I mean I like it if you can stay healthy because then you are still giving Cormani. If you can stay healthy with Moore and Dijon, you're still allowing Cormani to play a little bit and maybe get acclimated to playing some SEC football. And if like we've mentioned with Ben Hanks, or I mentioned earlier, where if you can play him a little bit throughout the season, then by the end of the year, he's playing like some pretty good football. I mean, I can get that with Cormani, and you lose Devin Moore after this year. if Cormani can be someone that you're looking at as a potential really good corner going into next season, I think that could be really monumental for the team. So I also go with a B.
Okay.
All right. Next, we'll talk about the safety room. Maybe one of the weirdest positions to look at because you look at the two guys there. Thornton started the back half of the season last year, played some pretty good football. Obviously, had the 2 picks to seal the game against Ole Miss. I think of Jordan Castell, who's now started nearly 2 full seasons of football, started 11 of 12 games in his freshman year and started all 13 games last year. So you look at Castell, it's like he has a bunch of experience, but then we talk about it a ton with Castell, his inconsistent play, where he'll have a really good stretch to begin his freshman season, and then the back half be pretty bad. And then the start of this year, he was playing pretty poor, but then at the end of the season, he was starting to play pretty dang well. If we see that Castell that we've seen play pretty dang well at times, we're looking at someone that has that 6'3" height, good size. Let me pull it up here on the roster's exact measurements. Castell, number 14, 6'2", 217. So he has good size, good speed. He has all the things you want in a SEC safety. And you just got to look at him to put it all together and play a consistent 12 games of football. Because if you're getting a consistent 12 games from Castell, you're feeling really good about the back half of that secondary. And we saw at the end of last year where we didn't allow deep passes. So if you're doing that and Castell can stop from all the deep bombs happening, which I don't know how many QBs you play have like big deep ball potential this season. So it's going to be interesting there, and pretty good tackler, one of the higher graded safety tacklers in the SEC, according to PFF. So there's been talks out of spring camp practice that Castell has improved. He was playing hurt to start last season, and it affected his play a good bit, and he got healthier, which is different compared to most players on their team last year that got injured throughout the season. But I think we get some solid play from Castell this year.
Yeah, it's tough with Castell because like we've obviously picked on him a lot, and it's not like he's like awful. It's not like he's a liability out there. It's just frustrating because you see the potential, but it feels like there hasn't been a lot of development with him. It kind of feels like we're dealing with the same player we were dealing with in September of 2023. At least from what we've seen, we'll see if he took a leap in the spring and going into the fall, but I mean, it's just frustrating the inconsistency and that he's kind of yet to emerge as like a guy that you can really feel good about. And then with Thornton, it's like, I think what we saw from him was promising. I don't know if I've seen enough for me to be like, I feel really good about this. Like, I think safety, like you said, it's a tough position to evaluate because it's not like a clear position of weakness. But it's also a position where like I don't really know where the floor is and I don't really know where the ceiling is. Like I feel like they could kind of be all over the place here. Like if both these guys, could I see both these guys taking big leaps and it ends up being one of the kind of above average areas of the team? Yeah, I could also see it being literally the biggest weakness on the team. Honestly, I could kind of see it anywhere in that range.
Yeah, I think Thornton's very interesting because I feel like I haven't seen him like be that like Castell has had negative plays happen a lot in like last season prior, but I feel like I haven't seen that happen too much with Thornton. Yeah. And it's like he's made some big plays, so I wonder if you have a decent floor there with Thornton that you might not have with Castell. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play in, because if they're playing really well, that could really help the corner room as well. Or if the corner room's playing really well, it can help up the safeties as well. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But then you look at the backup position. This is where things are really interesting because you lost Greg Smith to North Carolina, just like DeAndre Robinson went to North Carolina. And you're looking at the portal. You're looking at Zaquan Patterson from Miami, who ends up going to Oklahoma State. And you end up not taking a portal safety, which is very interesting because now you have no backup safeties with experience on this roster. Now you have 2 highly rated guys, Drake Stubbs, who's 6'1", 197, Jacksonville. So decent, good size there. Not the smallest guy in the world right there at 197, but true freshman. I think he has good physicality, but I don't know how much he can play in year one. And then you also bring in Lagonza Hayward, who's also 6'1", 203. I've heard good things about Hayward being more day one ready than
Mm-hmm.
Stubbs is, so maybe you feel fine there with him as a backup, but two freshmen now, sky's the limit with them, but in year one, if you're having someone as a backup, they're almost automatically being put in a position to where they have to have impact on the field day one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would have loved to see Florida go crazy in the transfer portal, but I think given what the situation and the resources and the timing and all that, like I think almost everything Billy Napier has done this offseason, I think from a personnel standpoint is understandable. The not getting a transfer safety, though, that is the one that I still am very unsure about because, like you said, you're really playing with fire here. You at safety could be like the Gators could find themselves in a really bad spot here, whether Castell is bad or you deal with, or maybe they're good, but maybe both those guys are good, but you're dealing with an injury. Like not shoring up the depth here after losing Greg Smith was really surprising to me. And I mean, and I like both these freshman safeties a lot. I just, it's a lot to ask. I mean, I think we're high on their potential in the long term, but I don't think you can ever really just assume that a true freshman is going to be ready to play immediately, especially a defensive back in the SEC with the level of talent at receiver and the quarterback play in this league. Like, it scares me. And that's kind of why this position, like, I could very well see it being fine, and it's something that we're not concerned about at all. But it doesn't take, like, you don't have to be that creative to see how it could end up being like a real disaster and Achilles heel for this team if you have some bad luck.
Yeah, maybe something interesting because I haven't heard like anything about him is Josiah Davis,
Mm-hmm.
redshirt freshman, I believe. Where is he at? Yeah, nearly 6'1", 199 out of Georgia. I believe was like a low 4-star recruit. I think he was a safety listed out of high school, but like more of a return man. It's like I just haven't heard too much about him. Now, we've had players we didn't hear too much about going into the season, then end up playing some good football. I mean, I remember not Pup Howard, sorry, but George Gums. I don't know if you remember when that week one depth chart got revealed and people saw George Gums listed as a starter. And it was like, wait, what? This guy is starting?
Mm-hmm.
Someone that we thought was just a practice squad guy that was like a 2-star wide receiver out of high school is now going to be starting here at UF. And he ended up being a pretty good player, and we have high hopes for him now. So maybe it's just something that's just not getting out of camp or anything like that. But like, hey, maybe we'll see him have some good impact on the year. But like, we're going to need to see someone step up. And even in the 2 starters, they need to step up. So it's a very interesting position to be at because you have the talent, but will they be good enough?
Yeah. So should we grade? Are we grading?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you grade the safety room?
I'm going, and I feel like I'm being a little optimistic here. I'm going B- on the safeties. I feel like objectively speaking, I probably should go C+ here, but I'm willing to give the 2 starters the benefit of the doubt. And then I think what the other thing that sways me, benefit of the doubt in the sense that I think they'll be at least serviceable. And then what kind of also has me there is just the fact that, like, if there's a position where I think freshmen can come in and contribute easier, it's safety. I think that's kind of a spot where it's easier for them to do so. So, like, I'm not as concerned about having to do that as I would be about like Ben Hanks, even though I think Ben Hanks is a really good player. Like, having him have to start at corner would be a little scary. So that's kind of where I'm at with the safeties. Like, I think B- is a little optimistic. I think this is kind of one of the weaker positions on the team, but it's not like the opposite defensive tackle spot where it's just like, I mean, man, we just don't know. Like, we know more about this group. It's just, there's still a lot that's unproven.
Yeah, I mean, I think B- is a good spot there. I think something we have to look at is the fact that Castell and Thornton, Castell especially, have played a lot of SEC football, which is something that no freshman can say, and not a lot of sophomores or even juniors or redshirt sophomores and stuff can say. So maybe that's something we're not accounting for enough. But yeah, I think B- is a good spot there to have the safety room. Oh man. So I don't know if you can see in my back. I mean, you can. I know you can. So I have a chair back there, the normal chair I use. I guess it broke. One of the metal pieces on the bottom of it just somehow broke on it. So I have another chair. It leans back really far, so it's a bit uncomfortable to be in right now. And I ordered a new one, and Amazon usually gets to my place around like 3, 4 o'clock. Well, I got a chair. It comes in today, and it just got delivered. I was hoping to have it ready for this show, but you know what? Of course not. But hey, we're going strong. We're fine here. We'll be back after this break and word from our sponsor.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
Welcome back. So we are 10 shows away until it's time for week 1. 9 shows away until it's time for week 0. So we have 8 games that I wrote down and considered to be big games that are worthy of breakdowns. And so not including the first 2 games, and then Kentucky and Mississippi State. Maybe that's a mistake on me. They're 2 SEC opponents, but the talent level on them, I don't think is worthy of like a preseason breakdown. So yeah, like there's a reason. I'm sorry. So we got 8 games, 10 shows left. We're gonna try to break down all of these games before the season starts. And first one we're gonna do here is Florida versus LSU, week 3, night game in Death Valley. It's going to be a fun game. Now, we all know that Florida was able to end that 5-game losing streak, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 6-game losing streak, 5-game losing streak to LSU. Haven't beat them since 2018 when Joe Burrow threw his first 2 career interceptions. So it was real nice to get that done, but this is like a whole new LSU team besides the quarterback. Almost everything on this LSU team is different. They went into the transfer portal, and they went heavy into the portal. And it's going to be interesting because you've seen teams go heavy into the portal and it work out. You've seen the same team go heavily into the portal and it work out and fail. We're talking about FSU, of course. So I think LSU quite clearly has a higher ceiling or a higher floor than what FSU did from last year. But it's going to be interesting to see how this strategy ends up paying off for the Tigers. Just quickly, what do you think? Just real quick, we'll break it down more. What do you think of this LSU team?
Yeah, I mean, a team that, first of all, has kind of completely reversed what it was trying to do. Like, if you remember, Brian Kelly going into last season after they lost a couple high-profile transfer battles, kind of made the point of like, we don't want to give our NIL to transfer guys. We want to focus on high school recruiting. Well, they changed their mind here because, like you said, this is a completely new look roster on both sides of the ball. A lot of new pieces. I mean, I think for the most part, it's upgrades. I mean, we'll get into it. I think, you worry about like the offensive line with everything they lost. The defense was still not very good last year. It took strides at the end. It was an improved unit under Blake Baker after it was, disastrous in 2023. An offense, a team that went 9-3 or whatever with an offense that had the NFL Rookie of the Year and the 2 best rookie receivers in the NFL on it. So still couldn't win more than 9 games because of how much of a limiting factor the defense was. It was still a problem in 24. So, I think this is a team that has the potential, but it's really just hard to say because of how much is new on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, you mentioned it, like all that talent, and wasn't it going into last year that Brian Kelly had won like 10 games since every year since like 2017?
Yeah, something like that.
So until last year where they went 8-4 in the regular season, it's like LSU easily could have gone like 6-6 too. I mean,
they
should not have won that
lost
South
to South
Carolina
Carolina
game.
Yep, they should have lost that game.
And
it was stolen from them.
They didn't cheat Ole Miss out of a win at all, but like Ole Miss choked that game away more than LSU won it. I mean, LSU won it, but like Ole Miss choked that game away fully as well. So that easily could have been a 6-6, not including the bowl game team there. So it's going to be very interesting to see how much those portal grabs really help this team, because I feel like a lot of people just thought that this LSU team is like one player away. But like we just talk about it, and it's like most of their losses last year were blowouts. I mean, A&M, they get blown out in the second half. That Bama game, they got blown out in the second half. Obviously, we didn't blow them out, but like Florida ends up winning that game by 11, and that game was over with 5 minutes to go there. So, and what was their other loss I'm forgetting? Week 1 to USC, a USC team that wasn't even that one ended up going 6-6. So this was an LSU team that they had the win over Ole Miss, but in South Carolina that ended up aging. The win itself aged well. How they won it was still questionable, but like, I think there's a bit more worry for LSU, in my opinion, than I think a lot of media is looking at it. I think in a whole, I think there's a lot of like LSU bias, because you look at year 2 starting QB, you look at the success that Brian Kelly has had as a coach, and you look at the stats of Garrett Nussmeier, and it's like, oh, well, this is exactly what Jaden Daniels did, like maybe a less win or so, and like, oh, this is the exact same like thing that Joe Burrow did. But I think I think there's a lot less talent, and I don't think Nussmeier is anywhere close to what Burrow and Daniels are 2 of the best QBs in NFL. They're the best QBs in college, so it's saying he's not close to them is quite obvious. But I don't think he's going to be close to them in terms of impact on this team that those 2 were.
So I like Nussmeier a lot. I think he's got a lot of talent. I've seen some really nice play from him. I think it's easy to forget that he really did not have a lot of experience going into last season. The only like extended action you'd really seen was in games that were already lost against Georgia in the SEC championship in 22, and then Alabama in 2023 when Jaden Daniels got hurt, which was also a game that was out of reach at the time. So, I mean, I think he will improve, but I mean, I think there's no doubt that going into last season, people kind of expected this to be a little bit more turnkey on offense than it ended up being. I think part of that is because, frankly, they didn't have the same level of receivers after they lost Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. I think that's been rectified this offseason to a large degree. I mean, bringing in Nick Anderson, who I think we'll see. He didn't play last season, was hurt, but looked pretty good when he, in 2023 before that. So we'll see if he bounces back. Barry and Brown, a good transfer from Kentucky, and then bringing back Aaron Anderson, who kind of had a breakout season last year. So, I mean, I like this offensive unit. I think the concern here is you lost everything along the offensive line. You lost 4 of 5 starters. The only returner is center DJ Chester, who was already...
It might not even start.
Yeah, it might not even start. And he was the weak link on the starting offensive line last year anyway. So that doesn't necessarily fill you with confidence. And then again, just all the new pieces on defense. Like, did this team get better? I think so. I mean, they add Jack Pyburn, who, like, say what you will about Pyburn. I think everyone...
A good floor raiser.
Yeah, he's a good player. Like, Pyburn is a nice addition to that team. Patrick Payton, a guy who didn't have a very good year last year at FSU, was very surprising. A lot of people thought he was going to be a first-round caliber player. Didn't really end up panning out. We'll see how that works this time around. Obviously they added Jakeem Jackson from Florida in the secondary, some other guys, Mansour Delane, a corner transfer from Virginia Tech. So a lot of new pieces. Like, I mean, they're playing Harold Perkins at in the slot now at nickel. I will never understand the way Harold Perkins has been utilized by Matt House and Blake Baker and Brian Kelly. It'll never make sense to me. But they've chosen to do what they've chosen to do. Like, I think LSU is just a hard team to project. Like, I could see this being a playoff team, and I think that's certainly where their expectations are at. But it's also pretty easy to see this being a team that has a lot of issues and either finishes around 8-4 again, maybe even backslides to like a 7-5. I don't think any of that's really out of the realm of possibility, which I think makes this week 3 game so interesting, because I think it's two teams that I think the same is true for Florida. I think Florida could be a playoff team. I think Florida could be a 7-5, 6-6 team, honestly. Like, I think it really just depends on how a few things break.
I mean, so we talk about Nussmeier not having too much experience, and it's true, but he's going into his redshirt senior season here. This is his 5th season now at LSU. Last year was his 4th. And I mean, I feel like a lot of Nussmeier's biggest issues were a lot of mental things. I mean, it's some physical stuff, but like all the sacks he was taking, I mean, I don't think he has the greatest arm in the world. And it's like, I don't know how good of a deep ball thrower he is, but like his biggest issue were those turnovers and all the sacks he was taking. And it's like, it's maybe a feeling out process there. So maybe it's not necessarily just learning and knowing when. It could just be a thing to where, hey, now he's got a full year, he's ready to improve on it. But like, for a player to going into his 5th season and still needing, I think, to take a pretty large step, I think it's something very interesting about him. And it's like, I feel like when you have a lot of 5th-year players, it's like, okay, you know exactly what they are. And it's like, they're good or they're bad. Like, maybe they're solid, but like, just, we're starting here with the QB position for LSU. And it's like, Nussmeier is just like, it's just so uncommon for someone of his age to be in a spot where he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a weird position because most guys would not sit on the bench for 3.5, 4 years waiting to start. So, I mean, he's been in a couple different systems. Obviously was there for the last year of Ed Orgeron and stuck around through Brian Kelly coming in. So, and then he's had 2 different offensive coordinators during his time under Brian Kelly at LSU. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of operating under the assumption that I think Garrett Nussmeier still has room to improve, but maybe that's not the case. I mean, like you said, he is a 5th year. So, I mean, that is definitely an assumption I'm making that might not be correct. And I mean, I think if he doesn't improve, like if he's the same quarterback as last year, where like he's going to produce, he's going to have nice plays, but he's also going to have some really maddening and costly turnovers, it's hard for me to believe this LSU team has that much higher of a ceiling. Because I think like you could kind of argue that the improvements at the skill position talent might be kind of a wash when you think about how they're probably going to take a step back along the offensive line. I think the defensive additions are nice. Are they nice enough to turn this from like a bottom half SEC defense to like a top 5 one? I don't think so. I think kind of the best you're hoping for is serviceable there. So I think Garrett Nussmeier is kind of the X factor here, because if Garrett Nussmeier is a Heisman candidate, I think they have enough elsewhere to kind of patch it together and be a very good team. But if you're dealing with a guy who's making really costly mistakes again, I don't know if this team is like complete and dominant enough elsewhere to be much better than they were last year.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to learn. I mean, we're going to learn a lot about them from week 1 when they play Clemson, but it's also like we saw with us, teams can improve and everything. But I mean, LSU. So, I mean, actually, let's just stick here with the quarterback. So we talked about Nussmeier. We gave our opinions. They brought in Michael Van Buren from Mississippi State, who statistically was pretty solid for Mississippi State, pretty high ceiling guy. Yeah. Although freshman, I do think
right?
I believe freshman last year. So yeah, freshman last year. So it's like he played pretty well, put up some stats against some good teams. Although I think something people may not have accounted for was the fact that teams were kind of sandbagging him, and that's like Van Buren could very well be a really good QB, but I think it's a bit more of a question when he faces a team that's like fully trying to go after him and not trying to let him score at all. Versus when you're just like, okay, we don't want to risk injuries in this game. We're just going to play in. Your defense is going to give up 38 points per game in conference play. So it's like, yeah, we're not going to do too much there. But, I mean, it's a solid room. I mean, Colin Hurley, former Jacksonville kid as well. I know we got in a motorcycle or like a moped or motorcycle accident a couple months ago. So it's like I heard some good stuff about his recovery. And I'm not even sure Juwan Johnson is, to be honest. I see him on their roster.
Yeah, he was a sort of athlete that they got, like kind of like more of a safety. Running back / DB. Yes, running back / DB, but he played some quarterback in high school. He's kind of repped there at times. Yeah, I don't really know like what he is shaping up to be, but they've kind of used him as just their like plug and play guy. If there's a position they need some more depth for.
I get probably in between getting Van Buren and when Hurley's been hurt,
Yeah.
so I guess they need a scout team back up there.
Yeah. And I think Van Buren, like to me, Van Buren is a guy you probably don't take if you get Bryce Underwood. Like I'm kind of assuming Van Buren is a guy they're kind of grooming to step in next year. If Hurley's not ready. But I think obviously that was going to be Bryce Underwood if he had signed with LSU. So, like, I mean, I don't think this is like a competition in any way. I think Van Buren is there for next year, but like, it's a pretty good backup. I mean, a guy who started like 8 games last year in the SEC, 7, 8 games, something like that. Like that's pretty solid.
Yeah, really solid backup there. So I think the point I was about to get into, the offensive line. LSU's offensive line last year was pass blocking wise one of the best in the country, maybe the best in the country, but they could not run the ball at all. Now, whether that was a choice, whether the offensive line just couldn't run block, I don't know, but they replaced basically everybody. And, maybe besides the center, but we'll see there. But we're going to find out about this LSU offensive line very, very quick. I mean, Peter Woods, they got TJ Parker. They got the transfer from Purdue, Will Heltz, I believe his name is. You're going to find out.
Will Heltz, the guy that went to Clemson. That's the. Sorry, you're saying. Never mind.
Yeah, Clemson. Peter Woods, TJ Parker, Will Heltz at Clemson. You're going to find. I mean, Nussmeier. We're going to find out really quickly if he's taken that next step in not turning the ball over when pressured, because that defensive line is going to get after him. I mean, even if this LSU's O-line is pretty good for a week 1 O-line, that front seven at Clemson is very scary, and they have some good linebackers, some good corners. Avion Terrell, A.J. Terrell's brother, I believe, there, that is a good corner as well that can lock down a receiver. So, I mean, I kind of wish we played LSU week 1 because LSU wouldn't have time to go and look at the tape and see what went wrong when they were playing a really good defense. And that could have been us out there instead making them look at the tape. But, I mean, it might not matter. It just might not matter if Nuss hasn't taken that next step in. I mean, we talk about injuries with us, and Nuss doesn't have an injury history. He got hit in that bowl game against, was it Baylor?
Yes.
But Nuss is listed 6'2", 200 pounds. Only 200 pounds. For someone that defenses are going to be specifically targeting, he definitely has a lot of weight that he needs to put on. And, I mean, week 1, week 3, you're against 2 of the best pass rushing units in the country. If he's taking 4 or 5 sacks in those games, it's like, it could be a lot for him. And I remember he got hurt in the Florida game. He came back out and everything as well. So it's like one wrong hit and you're throwing Van Buren out there, which would be it's going to be a wonder to see what he is.
Yeah, I mean, pass protection's a concern with this new group. Certainly losing Will Campbell and Emory Jones at the tackle spots. Those are big losses this offseason. Running the ball, like going back to what you were saying about the run game, that's kind of been the albatross around the neck of this program since Brian Kelly took over. Obviously, when Jane Daniels was here, it didn't matter as much. Yeah. He was running for 1,100 yards at the quarterback spot. You didn't need to manufacture that with a running back. But last year, they really couldn't run the ball. And yeah, I don't know, how much of that's the offensive line, how much of that's the running back room. I'll tell you, I think they have some intriguing guys in that running back room. Caden Durham had some nice flashes as a true freshman last season. Harlem Berry, a 5-star true freshman coming in this year. They have liked what they've seen from him. Caleb Jackson's had some moments. So, I mean, I think they've got some guys there. So I think we're going to kind of find out. The offensive line is it's so much of a limiting factor for everything here, because I think if this offensive line can avoid like dropping off tremendously, I think you've got the makings of a very good offense here. It's just, not only do I think that's hard to assume that the offensive line is going to not drop off tremendously, but I think it's more likely than not that it will. I think that's going to take some impressive coaching from Brad Davis, who's a very well-regarded offensive line coach. But this is a tough spot for this offense because it all really just hinges on what that group looks like.
Yep. So I was looking at some stats earlier, and just so happened LSU was one of the teams that ended up being top of this list. I was looking at scoring offenses in SEC play last year, and I was looking and like Ole Miss was like third or second or third or something, and third I think they were, and they took 17 field goals last year, which was second. Do you know who was most in field goals in the SEC last year?
Was it LSU?
It was LSU. This offense,
Interesting.
18 field goals, most. I believe Ole Miss was second at 17, and I think next was like 13 field goals. So those two offenses really struggled to get into the end zone, which can be a combination of not being able to run the ball and maybe not having a red zone threat. Now, they go and get Nick Anderson, who, 6'5" or 6'4", 210 pounds, had 10 touchdowns his freshman year in the Big 12 at Oklahoma. So it's like, in theory, you're getting someone who, at worst, should be a pretty solid red zone threat for you. But you look at last year, they just couldn't finish drives with touchdowns. They could finish them with field goals, but getting those touchdowns was just a problem that made them that kept them out of a couple games. I mean, look at our game. They took 4 field goal or 3 field goals in our game, if I'm not mistaken. It's like if you take 2 of those and make them touchdowns, LSU maybe wins that game. Or I mean, one of them even makes it a bit closer of a game there that goes to the final drive. I mean, LSU needs to be able to finish drives when they get into the opponent's territory. And you get Nick Anderson, who hopefully could be that guy. I know Tredez Green, tight end, 6'7", 240. Maybe he could be that guy out there as well.
Plays basketball too. He's on the basketball team as well.
Yeah, so he has a good vertical there. I like Aaron Anderson. Wait, Aaron Anderson's only 5'8". Wow. I mean, good deep threat slot receiver, but like more of a deep shot there. And Barry Brown should give you some good side-to-side speed out there that the other guys on this roster don't really give you. Maybe Chris Hilton as well takes a step, more of a deep threat as well. So it's like you probably need Nick Anderson to be as advertised, at least in the red zone, to help you finish drives. Or I think there's a world where LSU's offensive line is worse, but maybe they can run the ball better. Maybe it's something they focus on more.
Yeah, I mean, because I think what really hurt this team last year, like going back to what you were saying about finishing in the red zone, like, I mean, when you lose guys who are such good red zone threats in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., and then you lose Jaden Daniels' ability to run and create with his legs, like you just had a much less dynamic, not a bad offense, but just a much less dynamic offense. And that's what this LSU team was really missing. I mean, I think they've got the potential to have more of that this year. Like, when you look at the receiving additions they made last year, it was like, CJ Daniels was just not as advertised, a guy who was 1,000-yard receiver at Liberty, and it just didn't work out at LSU last season. So, we'll see. They're kind of hitting the slots again with the transfer portal, but I mean, I think it's hard.
I really liked Kyron Lacy. I really liked Kyron Lacy and Aaron Anderson. They were just missing that X wide receiver. I mean, Chris Hilton was injured and didn't play as well as he could have, and CJ Daniels as well there. So it's like, if Anderson can be that guy, I mean, I don't think Barry Brown is as good as a Lacy was. I think Lacy was a really good possession receiver that they could miss having this year. Because I don't know if they have like a possession receiver on this roster. I mean, maybe one of the guys we don't know, or like a Destin Hill who originally went to FSU and transferred out. But like, I just don't know if they have that possession receiver that it's third down, that's your go-to guy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, maybe not. I mean, we'll see Xavier Thomas kind of played a little bit last year too. Kyle Parker was a redshirt freshman, played a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think the top level of this group, like they've got playmakers. I agree, maybe not that like just go-to reliable target that Kyron Lacy was. I think Kyron Lacy had a very nice season. I think didn't necessarily live up to the level of like of Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas or what have you, which is kind of what the expectations were coming into last season.
But expecting him to be Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas is
but I mean, really I understand. I agree. But like, that's the way that people were talking around this program, like how just, how nonstop LSU's production of these really good receivers is. Like, that's
are they
kind of what
at
the expectation
be that
was.
too? Or is
I think
is that what
they see
LSU
it as.
fans are
I think
looking
they
at?
say it as closer to that. Like I think the kind of perception is Lacey was good, maybe not quite as good as you hoped he would be. CJ Daniels was a bust, but Aaron Anderson it did work out.
Pretty good.
Now you've kind of got it right this time around. I mean, I think that's what their perception is. I mean, we'll see what the reality is there, but
yeah, I guess. I mean, that's very interesting. I didn't realize they thought they were going to be like that elite. Like I thought they'd be pretty good. And
maybe not the unit across the board, but Kyron Lacey, absolutely, people thought he would like emerge as like one of the best receivers in the SEC. That was totally the expectation going into last season.
I think Lacey was like a top 10, top 15 level receiver in the SEC last year too, which
he was. He definitely was.
Originally committing and playing under Billy Napier his freshman year as like a 3-star receiver, and then coming to LSU, sitting on the bench for 2 years. Then, I mean, maybe they really but like he had to produce at all. I feel like that's kind of weird that he had that much hype about him.
It's just it's what he had shown when he was on the field, and again, just the idea of being next up, because they were also just there was not really a lot of doubt about Garrett Nussmeier's ability. I mean, I'm not even kidding when I tell you there were people going into 2023, going into the season when and I only say I used to cover LSU for those of you that don't know. So like I've got I was covering the team at the time. I've got kind of an idea where their fan base was at. Like there were legitimately people going into 2023, the year that Jaden Daniels won the Heisman, that like wanted Garrett Nussmeier to win the job over him and like continued to want to see Garrett Nussmeier even like in October of Jaden Daniels' Heisman campaign. Like it was truly unbelievable. It was truly unbelievable.
Wild.
I'm not saying that was a majority opinion. I'm just saying,
yeah, I get you.
I saw like there were people that were like ready for Jaden Daniels to go because they wanted the Garrett Nussmeier era to begin. Like that's just the level of hype this guy had for a guy who had really not played that many meaningful snaps at all.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't see that true elite player on this offense besides maybe Caden Durham, but I don't know if I trust him to run the ball. After the last couple seasons when you erased Jaden Daniels from this team. But I think it's time to look at the defense here. I guess let's start in the trenches, kind of how we did last in the offense. But I mean, we mentioned his name earlier, Jack Pyburn, Florida transfer. Jack Pyburn isn't going to be some elite player that's some game changer. We know what Jack Pyburn is. He's going to be a very, very solid run defender who's going to play smart football, who raises the floor, which is what he did for us here when he started playing and coming on after that in that Mississippi State game in week 4 for us. We saw him play some really good football, make tackles, not give up big plays. And I know LSU needs that. I mean, they haven't really had that. We hadn't had it either since last year or until last year either. So LSU, I think they really need that presence. Probably not gonna rush the passer that well. Like he didn't really at Florida either. So, I don't know if he had to put in his contract with LSU that he's gonna be in there on third downs, like he wanted at Florida. But we know what Pyburn is as a player. We'll see how LSU uses him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pyburn, I can see the vision here for what they're doing at least. I think pairing Pyburn, who's more of a run guy, up with Patrick Payton, who, again, coming off a disappointing year, but I think everyone believes has the potential. I mean, he was a freshman ACC Defensive Player of the Year or something like that. I don't remember exactly what he was, but he had a really nice early career at FSU. And then obviously not really anybody at FSU had a very good season last year. I'm not sure it's fair to put that all on him. So we'll see. But I think I see what they're doing at the edge, and I think it's solid. We'll see how if it's great, but it's solid. On the interior, I don't love it as much.
No. I mean, you'll look at last year. Here we go. I know they lost some guys. I'm trying to remember exactly who it was, but last year on the interior, they lose Savion Jones, Jacobian Guillory, Braden Swinson, more of an edge guy. Braden Swinson, who I think is their biggest loss from that D line. I just don't know if this D line has that takeover player, because Pyburn's going to be good and solid for you. Dominic McKinley could be that guy, former 5-star recruit, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not even sure who Ahmad Barrow is. I mean,
So actually, just to jump in real quick, Guillory is back this year. He tore his Achilles, I believe, in week 2 last year. Missed the whole rest of the season. So he's back. Hasn't played a ton, but is the most experienced guy on this defensive line by far. Ahmad Bro was a lower rated 4-star. Actually ended up playing quite a bit last year. And then obviously Dom McKinley, former 5-star, but also didn't play a ton last year.
Yep. And Sadir Mitchell, who transferred over from Texas, was a low-rated 4-star as well. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, if McKinley isn't that guy on this defensive line, I don't know if they have someone who's going to be that real game changer that can help you take over a game, unless they move Harold Perkins out there to rush the passer.
I think it could be Patrick Payton. I think Patrick Payton having a really nice bounce back season here would not surprise me in the slightest. I think he's poised to kind of be that focus player in the pass rush. And again, like I'm willing to say that he probably wasn't the issue at FSU last year on a team that went 2-10 when he had been good previously. Yep. You know what I mean?
Well, I think you can make the argument that he was just a beneficiary of the other elite defensive linemen on FSU's roster. Jared Verse and who am I forgetting? Why am I just forgetting their FSU's D line?
The interior guy. I know who you're talking about. I'm also blanking on his name.
They had Kalen DeLoach as well off the edge, I'm pretty sure. Who was really good for him, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like
they also had the guy that plays for the Rams, I believe, the interior guy.
Farmer. Is it Farmer?
He was there too, but that's not who I'm thinking of. I don't know who. I can't think of the guy's name. Totally blanking, but it was a defensive tackle from them like 2 years ago.
Here we go. I got it right. I don't know. I pulled it 2024, 2023 defensive line. Braden Fisk. That's right.
Yeah, thank you, Braden Fisk. Yeah, who I think does play for the Rams. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure right there. So it's like, was he just a beneficiary of playing next to Verse, DeLoach, Fisk, Farmer? DJ Lundy was a pretty good linebacker. I think play off the edge as well, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like, was he just another guy who was able to take advantage of that? Or what is he a potential all elite player that can help get to the QB and become a disruptor in the backfield that LSU desperately needs?
No, I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, like I said, I do think playing opposite Pyburn is kind of nice, even though Pyburn's not going to be a major pass rushing threat. I'm like, we'll see about Dominic McKinley. I mean, again, just didn't get a lot of opportunities last year, but was a really highly rated recruit. I mean, this was one of the bigger recruiting wins Brian Kelly's had in his entire time at LSU. Stole him from Texas A&M, I believe, right after early signing day. Yeah.
So I think you need to see probably one of Patrick Payton or Dominic McKinley take a pretty large step, or this defensive line is going to need a lot of help from its linebackers, which it might get here. Let's talk about the linebackers here. It's really the story of the Week brothers here. You have Whit Weeks, who emerged as it was a sophomore last year. That was a freshman, but emerged as a true sophomore last year. Played some pretty good football. Not really that great against Florida, in my opinion, but outside of that, he got a lot of hype and played some pretty good football in his true sophomore season. Played pretty well, had 49 tackles as well as freshman year, so not something out of the blue there. But you pair him next to West Weeks, who is a transfer from Virginia, only played in 4 games last year, for Virginia, but was able to rack up 15 tackles in those 4 games. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see having 2 brothers. Maybe they have some good chemistry. They're playing next to each other there, but I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, West has only been kind of a sporadic contributor. He's been there for this will be I think his 3rd season there. So he's been kind of just a sporadic contributor. Whit Weeks is a really interesting player. Obviously we didn't have his best game against Florida, but he's had some really nice games. Got hurt, I believe, had a torn ACL or something, I believe, in the bowl game. So we'll see what I think he's expected to be fine. He's not expected to miss any of the season, but you'll see. I think that's always an area where you're a little bit worried when a guy's coming off an injury like that.
Yeah.
But I think I think he's a really good starter at inside linebacker. I think his brother West, who's his older brother, who's honestly not as good as he is, but can still be a solid depth piece. And then obviously you have the guy that, we all know what he's capable of at times, but just, struggled with consistency in Harold Perkins.
He struggles with, we don't know what he is. Or the staff doesn't know what he is.
I don't know if, I don't know if that's his struggle. I feel like I know what he is. It seems like it's them that
can he
be
what he is? I think is also an interesting question.
Yeah.
Because,
I mean, he was at his best as like a third down pass rushing specialist off the edge as a true freshman, and they've just completely declined to use him that way. They've played him inside off the ball. They've moved him to like sort of a slot where like we were talking about, the nickel or the star being listed as a linebacker position for us. That's kind of more how LSU's actually using it in practice with him. So they're trying all sorts of things with him. Nothing's really worked. Obviously, he got hurt early last year, missed almost the entire season. So it's not necessarily fair to say like he hasn't looked good since his true freshman season, because maybe he would have had a better year last year than he did in 2023. But it's just, we're getting to the point with him where like it's year 4. Like at some point, we got to figure out what this guy's going to be, or he's just a guy who had a really good true freshman season,
Yep. All right. Move on from the linebacker position. Whit Weeks is really going to be the story. And I mean, if we see something there from Harold Perkins, maybe he could be that big story as well. But going to the corner room, this is where things get interesting, because they bring in a couple of transfers. Matt Sorndelane, who is seen as one of the better corners in maybe all of college football. They bring him over from Virginia Tech, senior transfer out there. Had 4 interceptions, 7 pass deflections. That's really good. I've seen them mocked as high as like the late first round type of guys. So it's going to be interesting seeing year 1 of a new system here at LSU. But the name we're all looking at, Jakeem Jackson, former top 60, 55 recruit he was teammates with LJ. No, he was not teammates with LJ McCray. He was teammates with someone else. I'm forgetting, but I think of Lakeland. But no, Kissimmee. It was teammates out of Kissimmee. It was teammates with Derek LeBlanc, who went to Oklahoma, and guy who went to UCF, his name I'm forgetting as well, but ended up not doing too well here. Got injured his 3rd season here, which is probably what sealed his fate at UF. Like, he wasn't able to break out in his 2nd year here, and that's really probably what ended his career here at UF, and just was never able to break through, whether it's an injury, whether he's just not good enough. I mean, he has the athleticism. He has all the tools you need to be a good corner. I mean, Corey Raymond, a bit washed in my opinion. So it's like, I don't know if we'll see Jakeem Jackson get developed there, but they also bring back Ashton Stamps, who was their number 1 corner last year, who was a bit burnt toast in the LSU Florida game with Elijah Badger, but as a veteran guy now in his junior season there at LSU, maybe he'll take another step.
Yeah, I think secondary is the part of this team that I think is most poised to potentially be like really improved this year. Truthfully, like Jakeem might not be starting here. I honestly would probably be willing to bet he wouldn't be. Yeah. I mean, Stamps, like you said, didn't have his best game against Florida, but still a guy they liked a lot in his first 2 years. I think they're optimistic about him. Obviously, Delane brought him in to sort of be the guy in the secondary. And then you've got some other guys here, like PJ Woodland kind of played more in the nickel. He was like he was kind of a weird case, because I remember going into last season, he was like a 3-star, like not a very highly recruited guy at all. But all throughout the offseason, I just kept hearing about how good PJ Woodland looks. Like, just one of the guys you're not expecting at all to contribute year 1, but he ended up actually playing a decent amount. They like him. Obviously with Jakeem in there, obviously DJ, talking about Corey Raymond being washed, but he did get DJ Pickett, a 5-star corner in the 2025 class. So
Washington development. Washington development, not as a recruiter.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. I think they've got pieces in the secondary. I mean, a lot of them are unproven, but I think this has the potential to be a much improved unit. I think it was a unit that took steps throughout the season last year. It started off pretty bad. I think it got a lot better.
Something that scares me for LSU, though, is you go back to like 2019 when they won the championship, where they had Derek Stingley, Christian Fulton was still on that team. I think they had a good safety whose name I'm forgetting right now. They had all these good players, but that LSU defense was just not that good. It was good enough to win a championship still, but if you remember, they were giving up like 30 points to Vanderbilt. They gave up 30 plus to Texas. Early in the season, that LSU defense, having great players on it, even on the D-line, was just getting scored on a lot. Now, their offense is scoring like every single time, so defense gets tired, and it's like maybe that played a part of it, but they were still just getting beaten coverage a lot, like schematical issues or whatever it is. Like they had the players that just didn't gel well together. And you look back at Corey Raymond, it's like 2019, that was the case. 2019, they have Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley. Or did Stingley sit out, or was he injured in 2020?
Stingley, he was injured. He was injured pretty much all of 2020 and 2021, if I remember correctly.
But like week 1 of 2020, Mississippi State, KJ Costello throws for SEC high in pass yards and like 500 something in that one game. And we never saw that LSU defense improve. I mean, Eli Ricks ended up being a good freshman corner. After that freshman season, he like fell off. So it's like they've had good players under Raymond there, and for some reason, that LSU DB play just has not been good in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, yeah, LSU's kind of losing its grip on the DBU claim, but I do think this will probably be the best secondary LSU's had since that 2019 team, which maybe isn't saying a ton, but I think it's where it's at. I mean, I think, Blake Baker, who I don't think is still the highest paid defensive coordinator in the country, but was at the time when Brian Kelly hired him. I'm assuming that's probably either Tom Allen. It might be Tom Allen now at Clemson. Who got hired away from Penn State. I don't know. But either way, he's one of the highest rated. I mean, they brought him in to fix that defense. It was kind of slow progress last year, but it was definitely better by the end of the year. Like, I think this has the potential to be a solid defense. I don't really see elite potential in this LSU defense, but like, if the defensive line is good enough and the secondary takes some steps, I mean, you got to feel pretty good about the linebacker play. So, like, I think that is the path to this being a competent SEC defense.
So it still is Blake Baker.
It is.
Okay. Tom Allen's making $1.9 million. Just some sad news that just got reported in the middle of the NBA Finals. We're recording. This is live during the NBA Finals. Tyrese Halliburton tore his ACL.
What?
In the first quarter. Yep.
Oh my God. Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's what everyone's saying in the chat. That's a torn ACL. Like, yeah.
Oh my
God. That's just unfortunate. I mean,
that's crazy.
Middle of this preview and everything, but like, I felt like that's some pretty crazy information to come out.
Man, what a back.
He had 9 points in the first quarter too.
Dude, what a just way to deflate the entire team, man. That sucks.
Yeah, they're down 3 at end of the first quarter. So, I mean, maybe they'll play up to them, but like, we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. But let's finish this up here. We're almost done here at the LSU preview. You get to their safety room. They bring in AJ Halsey from Houston, was a really good safety there at Houston during the spring portal cycle. Who is the name expected to start? Is it going to be Javion Tovion, former top 60 recruit, or
Toviano
Spears?
I mean, I think you could see both of them. They both kind of seen sporadic playing time. Toviano had a weird off-season, off-the-field issue that seemingly has been resolved, so I think he's good to go. I'd say I probably would lean him. But yeah, like you said, another position, bringing in Halsey, which just another reason why I think the secondary, that was a nice pickup, I think. Another reason why I think the secondary is poised to potentially take a very, very big leap, though I hear your concerns about Corey Raymond.
Yep. I mean, Spears, former top 100 recruit. I mean, LSU, even when they were bad, they've had all this talent in the secondary. It's just they need to get the guys to end up playing well. And, they've got some veteran transfers in Delane and Halsey, got some other talented guys. I mean, we haven't even mentioned DJ Pickett yet, who might start for this secondary, 5-star corner out of Zephyr Hills, Florida, true freshman there. So it's like they have all the talent to have a really good secondary, not even just a good secondary, but maybe it could be a combination of they don't have a defensive guy that gets pressure on the QB. So, a Klubnik or a Lagway can just stand in the pocket and have all day to throw, and it just ends up tearing apart the secondary. But, on paper, the guys in the secondary should play pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think this on paper could be the strength of the defense. It's just we'll see if it is in practice.
Yep. All right. Let's each say one thing that we think is either that's going to be both Florida's biggest strong suit in this game and Florida's biggest weakness in this game. We did this when we had Zach on from LSU, Florida Voice of College Football. I'm going to try to say different because we said the D line against our O line. Looking outside of the D line versus the O line, I'm going to say something interesting here as well. You have two coaches who are also both pretty widely known to be poor game day coaches in big games, especially. Brian Kelly especially is known to be a pretty bad coach in big games. So I think that's going to be interesting. But biggest weakness here, I'm going to go. It really all revolves around that LSU. I'll flip the script. I'll go Florida's O-line versus that LSU defensive line here because, say McKinley ends up stepping up. Well, who is he going to be facing on that interior? Damian George, Jake Slaughter, Njaya Harris. Njaya Harris, not Njaya Harris, but Jake Slaughter, the best center in college football. Damian George and Njaya Harris were two of the better graded guards. They were both, I think they were tied for 6th in the SEC among guards in run blocking and both in the top 15 in pass blocking. So two very solid guards there. I think George a bit better than Harris as of now. So it's even if McKinley is a really good player, he's going to be facing some pretty tough offensive linemen. And same with Patrick Bateman. If he takes that step, he's going to be going against Austin Barber, who some have as a projected top 5 pick. Only gave up 5 pressures all of last season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To me, what I'm saying kind of goes a little hand in hand with what you said. I think in addition to the advantage Florida has along the offensive with its offensive line, I think this could be a game where Florida is able to just gash them on the ground. When you look at their weakness being on the interior of the defensive line, Whit Weeks is a good player. But this LSU team hasn't necessarily been a great, super, tough run defense up front. I think outside of Whit Weeks, I worry about that linebacker core a bit too in the front 7. So I think if Florida's run game is as good as I expect it to be, this could just be a clinic from those guys. I'm not sure. I can't hear what you're saying, Tyler. I'm not sure if that's on.
Sorry, I had the mic muted. Sorry, I had the mic muted. So I was saying, if Florida wins this game, like how you just said, we're just gashing them, maybe not throwing the ball a lot, and we end up winning this game 24-20. It's Lagway maybe only has 150 yards, but we run for 200. Mm-hmm. There's still going to be fans who are going to complain about Billy Napier's play calling, and it's I know this for a fact. I know a couple fans who will complain if Lagway isn't throwing 300 yards a game. But it's if you just win football games. That's really all that matters here. So it's if you're winning football games, running for 200 yards and throwing for 150, that's fine. If you're winning them throwing for 300 yards and not running for much, that's also fine. Just win the football games.
I think what would be most frustrating for fans is which I think is fair to an extent, is what I think would be the most maddening way for this game to play out, but it still be a Florida win, would be Florida runs for 200 yards, but it's almost all in the first half, and they jump out to a 24-7 or 24-10 lead.
I don't
and then
think that would be
don't
as
score,
frustrating as
and
you
then
think.
don't score in the second half and let LSU make it a game. Like, I think that is the frustration with Billy Napier, is just he doesn't keep his foot on the gas at times.
I could see that, but like I think no matter how you win this game at LSU, it should be looked at as a good thing. I mean,
yeah, 100%. Like, if you win this game, you're fine.
Unless Clemson just blows out LSU.
Yeah, true. If they look really bad in that game, yeah.
And it's like a game where we probably shouldn't have won, and we find a way to escape. Yeah. Like, it's a road game, and this one's going to be at LSU. I mean, both of those games are technically at Death Valley, but this game's at LSU, so it's bit different, and they got some chance to improve. But if Clemson blows out LSU and then we go and escape Death Valley with the win, then I could definitely see fans being pretty upset about it, even though maybe people are going to be looking short-sighted and just being like, oh, well, Clemson could destroy them. Why couldn't we? Mm-hmm. But it's they could have improved. Because I think I'm getting into
Clemson also might be the best team in the country. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Clemson's the best team in the country.
But now getting into what I think could be the biggest weakness here for Florida. I mean, I've talked about it as maybe something that I'm a bit lower on with Garrett Nussmeier in the passing game, I'm taking a reverse here. I've been pretty high on Florida's receiving core, but this is going to be Florida's first true test against these LSU DBs. And I've talked about Mansour Delane, I've talked about Stamps, DJ Pickett, Jakeem Jackson, one of the two highly graded recruits at safety as guys that could step up, but we have a bunch of young wide receivers. Now, J. Michael Sturdivant's an experienced guy. What if Sturdivant's just good? And it's they put Delane on him, and Sturdivant is just taken out of the game. Mm-hmm. So then you're relying on, Trey Wilson. What if, Trey Wilson is still figuring his things out as a route runner, and it's just a give the ball and let him make a play type of guy to where he's not a true receiving threat? Well, then you're going to Mizell or your true freshman in Vernell Brown or Dallas Wilson, who, I mean, I don't think Dallas Wilson's going to be physically ill-prepared for a game because his stature is just insane. But, it's going to be his first time facing real SEC opponents. And it's you look at, DJ Pickett's also a freshman, but Stamps, Badger destroyed him last year, but Stamps, that's just battle-tested for Stamps now. He's gone through and faced a really good receivers all of last season, and now he's going to get some true freshmen in his first SEC action. Or what maybe gets fans even worse, more mad than what we just talked about, Khalil Jackson's out there and just can't get any separation. It's if Sturdivant isn't that great, there's a chance to where you can just have your number one corner take him out and your other corners just and safeties be more experienced, more physical, and just early on in the season, those other guys could have trouble getting open.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we're pretty high on the receiving core, but I do think a lot of that is kind of projection. We're projecting about Dallas Wilson. We're projecting about Sturdivant. We're projecting about Mizell. We're projecting about Trey Wilson to an extent. So absolutely, there's not a lot that you can just say definitively without a shadow of a doubt, you feel really good about this part of the receiving core. For my weakness for Florida, I'll actually flip what you're saying. What concerns me, I'm pretty high on this LSU receiving core. And after everything we've talked about today about the secondary and, talking about how guys like Jordan Castell struggled earlier in the year last year, if you see similar struggles in the secondary, this could be a really scary game for Florida. Obviously we'll see what the protection looks like for Garrett Nussmeier, but I think Garrett Nussmeier is a guy that if you give him easy open throws, he will make you pay for it.
Yep.
And so it's just going to be a major early test for all the guys that are playing in the secondary, that I guess all the guys that aren't Devin Moore, really, because I think Devin Moore is really one of the only guys out there that I think if he's healthy, really not really a question in my mind. I think I don't worry about his ability, but he's really the only one that's like that. So I could very easily see this team, just especially not having been tested by a receiving core like this in those first 2 weeks. I could really see this secondary just not being ready for this game. That's kind of the scariest scenario for me.
Yep. All right. So do we even want to predict the game right now? Maybe because we gave some predictions a month ago when we did our scheduled predictions. Before the week of the game on that Sunday before, we'll obviously give some predictions. I don't think either of our predictions have changed from the last 2 times we've talked about it. I'm still taking the Gators to win this game. You're still taking LSU, I presume. I mean,
yeah. And I mean, just to clarify on that, because like if you're listening to this, it definitely doesn't sound like I'm like super sure that LSU is a better team than Florida. I don't think, but I mean, first of all, Florida hasn't won a night game in Death Valley since 2009, I believe. And
right.
Yeah, so it's just, especially with LSU, either like one of two things is going to happen. Either LSU is riding super high from winning on the road in week 1 against Clemson, or their back is completely against the wall coming into this game because the season is totally off the rails if you start 1-2 or 2.
You know what this is? You know what this is similar to?
1-2.
Very similar to Florida last year. Week 1 against Miami, it's like, okay, Florida's probably going to go 1-1 against Miami and A&M because they're going to either win that Miami game and maybe be overconfident going to that A&M game, then lose that, or they're going to lose that Miami game and Billy Napier is going to be fighting for his job against Texas A&M.
Yeah,
Florida still went 0-2 in those games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now we turned around, but like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like,
I mean, you're going to hear Brian Kelly. You're going to hear Brian Kelly hot seat talk if they start 1-2. There's no doubt about it.
Easily. I think I mean, my hot take is Brian Kelly isn't going to be the coach in 2026 for LSU.
It's a lot of money, but not saying it's not possible. It's just a lot of money, but it's definitely within their own possibility. I think they probably would. I think they probably would if it came down to it.
Yeah, all right. So that'll be our LSU preview. Next week, we'll be doing the game after that, revenge factor for us against Miami. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Man, I mean, I saw that news about Halliburton. That's just so sad. In Game 7, it's like we haven't had a Game 7 in so long.
Yeah, that's such a bummer, especially just with how magical he's been in the postseason for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not even, like I said, I'm not even a big NBA guy, but
no,
I've been watching this postseason and he's been a lot of fun. So that is a major bummer. Definitely takes a lot of the wind out of the sails. What's going on in that game right now?
It's a 32-9, 8 left in this second quarter. Gotcha. So, my camera's going crazy right now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with your
camera.
All right,
let me do this real quick. You can go to the new Voice of College Football website. So something I found real interesting, an article recently released. It's kind of cut off here. I had to get into a picture frame. They talked about the top 3 coaches on the hot seat. So last year, Billy Napier was like number 1 on these lists and easily number 1. And I think he probably had better odds to be fired after that Texas A&M game than he did to be retained. So I don't know that for a fact, but I think it'd be a pretty safe. I don't know what my camera's doing. Okay. Nope, it didn't fix it. But we're finishing up anyways. So check out the Voice of College Football website, vocfb.com. And I wanted to look at this. They have Venables at 3. I think that makes a lot of sense. Bring in Mateer. It's like you bring in that 1-year QB to help you elevate things. Yep. This is an interesting one. Lincoln Riley at USC. Who would have predicted this 4 years ago?
Yeah.
And I
mean,
those
guys both being on the hot seat, so funny.
Yeah.
Neither side won. Neither to this point, at least, neither side has won that divorce.
Yeah. At USC, number 1 recruiting class right now. I mean, now they've lost a lot of recruits over the past couple of years. I mean, I was looking at their decommit list from last class. That was a top 10 recruiting class of its own.
Yeah.
So
from what I understand, their NIL situation is kind of a mess from what I've heard.
Yeah, so for their fans' hope, like I hope they have it figured out and aren't about to have a similar thing happen. But as a Florida fan, I hope it falls apart, like my camera is right now. And then Mike Norvell at number 1. That fixes it. Okay, Mike Norvell at number 1 here for FSU, which is just, I'm gonna be honest, unless like FSU wins like 2 games again, I don't think Mike Norvell.
Yeah, I don't.
It's too much money.
It is. It's way too much money. They don't have that kind of money. Yeah, I mean, it's like I get it. Like, I don't know how this is like uncharted territory. I don't know how you react to like the season they had in 2023, which like say what you will, but like I mean, it was obviously funny because it was Florida State, but like they got screwed pretty bad there, and like just with the way it all played out. So to go from that to going 2-10 the next year, like we don't really have a parallel for that. So like, I don't know what to say. I mean, obviously that's horrifically bad what happened last year, but like, there's no way he's gone if they're like 7-5 this year, right? Like if they're 6-6, 7-5, there's no way they fire him. In my mind,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, he's 100% safe. If they go like 7-5.
Yeah.
Again, I think he has to win less than 5. I think it's just too much money. Like LSU, I know will pay it, but like
I don't think FSU can.
know. That's
they
the
might
thing.
have to literally. Yeah, I mean, this is a program that was looking at like getting private equity involved like a year or two ago.
Yep.
I mean, maybe the financial situation has improved a little bit, but I don't think it's improved so much you can justify giving what 75 million or whatever. Well, I don't even know what Norvell's buyout is off the top of my head, but it's a lot.
Yep. But interesting coach who's not listed here.
It's like 64 million, by the way. It's like his Mike.
If this coach was at any other school, he would definitely be on this list. Mark Stoops at Kentucky.
Yep.
Because again, it's just like a buyout to where they don't care enough about football to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, that money can just go to basketball. No.
Stoops is a weird situation to me because like this is a guy that was in like statue territory a couple years ago. It's really weird the way that marriage is soured. I mean, it probably sort of started when he was all but 1 foot out the door to go to Texas A&M before that fell through. If you'll remember, before they ultimately hired Mike Elko. I think that was probably the beginning of the end. He's made no bones about, publicly complaining about the NIL situation, having to deal with basketball. There was some strife there between him and Calipari, who Calipari's ultimately gone. I honestly was a little bit surprised Stoops came back. I kind of thought that divorce might have happened last year with the way things had turned, but
the thing is, it's like you could think Stoops might retire, but it's like it's a lot of money. They have to pay him like 30+ million, I'm pretty sure. So it's like
he just needs to go to Iowa when he just needs Kirk Ferentz to retire so he can go to Iowa.
I've heard that a bunch. So maybe after this year that'll happen, and that would be fun because I think Stoops is a pretty cool coach, a good guy to root for, just at a team that I don't like rooting for at all. So it'd be nice to see him leave the SEC. Oh, I don't know why it keeps coming back to this one every time we leave one of those, but I'll give you guys some recruiting updates here before we head off. We got a couple commitments that are officially planned this week on the 26th. Desmond Green? Is that his name?
Desmond Green.
4-star interior offensive lineman out of South Carolina. Got projections to land him. Commits on the 26th. 4-star guy. I expect us to land him. Another one that in 7 days from now, the 29th, Claude Mpuma, 4-star offensive tackle. He also announces his commitment date as well. So that's going to be one that I'm not 100% confident on. Really, my biggest thing is I was told 5 offensive linemen this cycle, and you get Green, who'll be your 5th. Are they taking 6th? I feel like with a guy like this, you have to. With Claude, he's a guy in the top 200 ranking, 169, I believe. So I hope they take him, and it'll be something that's the thing that gets fans annoyed, where it's like you take a bunch of these 3-stars, then you have a 4-star top 200 guy, and it's like, no, we'll pass. We already have our guys. So it's like, I hope they do. He was at Nebraska this past weekend. Did you see some of the stuff they were doing for the recruiting weekend?
No, I didn't.
They had like a live bull or something, taking photo visits. They like throw on tractors. It was interesting stuff that
it's not quite as cool as a Lambo. If I'm being honest,
No,
taking pictures of the bull, not quite as cool as a Lamborghini.
It'd be an acquired taste. I mean, Claude Mpuma is, I'm pretty sure, from like Cameroon. So it's like, I'm not sure if that stuff would be something that entices him like a Lambo would, as you said. So we'll see what happens there. Hoping we land that, obviously some big names we're hoping, like Trenton Henderson, we got predictions for during the week. We're hoping that he's taking his Texas visit. Texas got the 5-star edge rusher that committed today. They have predictions to land another one. So you're hoping that kind of takes his Texas out of that battle, and hoping you can get him to commit early and not wait until, later on down the road. And FSU, I know, is getting a visit, supposed to get an official visit for that week 1. But I mean, that being said, I think I've said everything. Do you have any final words for the chat?
No, I mean, just on the recruiting note, like we're kind of getting to crunch time here. Florida's gotten its visits in. They filled out the class a little bit with some, a couple higher level guys, a couple kind of more just I don't want to say filler pieces, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
And then this is kind of where the rubber's about to meet the road. We're about to see kind of in the coming weeks. They've got some battles finishing off. Obviously, lost was it Vodney Cleveland to
Yep.
Texas? Yeah.
Yep.
So couple haven't
And
gone their way. We'll see kind of in the coming days what happens there.
Kendall Gervil, another 4-star D lineman from Florida, who just got projected to land at Texas, scheduled his commitment for July 2nd. Was someone that you thought was going to go down to December to the wire, but Texas, they needed one more defensive lineman, and they just finished off in that defensive line class. But with that being said, if there's any commitments, of course, you'll see a video from us. Hoping to get some big ones there. Some good names I've heard coming out that maybe a bit of surprise there for the fans there. So we will see you guys next Sunday. Talking about the Miami